All right. Moving on, Senator Stumpf, let me ask you about your field of particular interest, higher education. We have a viewer who's concerned about what might be happening in higher education this session. Of course, it's not typically a budget session, but nonetheless, that is an issue that comes up from time to time. So we'll start with you.
Well, I think the issue that I've heard is that the budget that we put together last year was short some money to accommodate the budget that the MnSCU system has, and the governor, I think, responded to that in his supplemental budget with adding, I believe it was $17 million more dollars to the MnSCU system, and I think $5 million for the University of Minnesota. And so I think that that really kind of helps the colleges and universities get through the period of the next 2 years with adequate funding. And you know, I think that there's certainly other problems. You know, the one that I hear about quite often is that they would like more resources put into what we call HEPRA, but which is really preserving the facilities of the campuses. And there's such a pent-up demand there. I think both the University of Minnesota and the MnSCU system wanted to have somewhere around $110 million per system. It's very difficult to put that kind of resources in there because it's not glamorous. I mean, you don't go out and cut a ribbon for a new boiler that you installed on some small part of a campus in rural areas someplace. I think we should, but I really think that trying to address a higher budget for that area is important, even if that means we don't get to fund some new project down, you know, that's lower on the list.
There's another way to think about this. That number just keeps getting higher, and if you look at how some of this is being spent, I think it's not quite how we would have anticipated. We're thinking leaky roofs and maybe energy efficiency windows. But a few years ago at the university, they gutted Northrop Hall and then put together revenue to rebuild it. And $18 million of that was asset preservation, higher ed asset preservation, HEPR. This year, of that amount of their request, I think something like 32 or 35 million is for one building, a mechanical engineering, to really renovate that. And and there's an advantage to them in putting a project into the asset preservation line because the state does 100% of it. When they do a new construction, the state does 2/3 and the institution does 1/3. And so I've wondered if we've not built an incentive for them to move projects there, and whether we ought to think about having them be very, very careful about how many buildings they're building and say you really have to have a business plan to operate and maintain them. It's sort of out of our control once we have funded that building, but I think there has to be some responsibility on the system to say, how are we going to take care of this building? And so maybe we've put too much of an incentive to move projects into asset preservation and ought to put a little more pressure on them to say, be very careful what you build because we think you probably should have a business plan for operating and maintaining the building.
Well, Senator Stumpf?
I'll just maybe tag on to some of this as we go around and get input not only at the Capitol but certainly on site. HEPR asset preservation is always a big one, but we also, and I'm not sure this issue will ever go away, is the cost of tuition and how do we ultimately, you know, make this affordable. I happened to visit with one of our interns, I think it was last week, and she's going to have about $120,000 worth of debt when she graduates. So, well, that's a pretty long-term commitment to a debt. Now, hopefully it'll all work out for her, but you know that's the reality of life, and I don't know how we get to it, but you know the cost of education is constantly seemingly going up, whether it's facilities, whether it's salaries, whether it's, it's hard to know exactly where all these costs come from, but they're there, and they affect real Minnesotans every day in ways that you wish they didn't.
Well, I think that's a very important point. I've got a 17-year-old that we're starting to look at colleges, and we've been saving for her college since she was a baby. And we're in the same boat as a lot of people, that the stock market since 2008 has not done very well, and home prices are probably down 40%. So in the late 90s, the economy was doing very good. Housing prices were going up. Families could borrow against the cost of their home, and the investments that they'd been making could really pay for this rapid growth in spending in our colleges and universities. And parents just can't afford to pay for that, and students cannot continue to accumulate unlimited debt to pay for that either. And I think universities, the University of Minnesota in particular, and others in MnSCU are doing a great job of trying to control costs and cap that, and also realize that students are having to work more and to borrow more. But it's not the good old days of the 1990s when we could just rely on investments and home equity to fuel inflation for schools. So we've got to get a handle on it.
And I think before we leave higher ed, since we're all interested in bonding, we should say higher education is always the most significant part of the bonding bill, roughly 30% of the bill. And that's because it is about our future. It's training the workforce of the future, and it is about all that research and development that's going to shape the next Fortune 500 company here. The one important statistic, I think, as we look at what projects we fund, in MnSCU particularly, enrollment is down slightly, but the one area where enrollment's up is those students who want science as their background. They know, they are smart enough to know science is their future. And so if you look at the number of requests from MnSCU institutions where a science facility is high on their list, I think they're responding to that growing group of students who are seeking a degree and a job in that area.
If I could just make a comment on, as we went around the state, we visited a lot of technical colleges and community colleges. And the thing that really impressed me was that there were many programs in these technical colleges that were where you had huge demand. I mean, technicians, people who would be mechanics, welders. I mean, the trades are many companies can't get enough of these people. In Dakota Technical College, they have a good welding program, a large welding program, but they said they could place 100 welders, and that still wouldn't even come close to the filling the need. So the other thing is that Minnesota, and I think the United States in general, doesn't have the same connection to business community as, let's say, Europe does, Germany in particular, where you have a very strong connection between the business community, the employer, and the student. There are some examples out here. Out of Dakota, they had John Deere, and you had GM, and you had Caterpillar. A number of them that they enter the program, and when they get into the program, they have a part-time job automatically with these companies. Then, once they graduate, they got a full-time job and make excellent wages. In fact, probably as much, if not more, than some of the four-year degrees. Not to downplay four-year degrees, but I think we have good things happening here where you can lower the cost of the kind of education where you can get an excellent salary and good lifetime job.
And what some students are doing to keep the debt down, in those first 2 years, they go to the two-year community college to do a lot of the requirements at a lower cost. Even pre-med students do this to a certain extent. And then they transfer into a four-year or university. And so it helps to hold down the debt that you're anticipating.
My sense is that those of us with political science and history degrees, that we're probably not in that market where they're just clamoring to hire us. Would I be right about that?
It's called re-education.
this-
You have to
yeah, well,
go back and...
there are a lot of people who think I should engage in that, but that's a different story. All right.